So earlier this week, I thought I was dying. And it's because as you get older, there's things that you have to do to monitor your body, right? And
Is it fair to say you might be late to the game on some of these things?
No, I think I'm stepping foot with where I need to be.
Okay.
So I told the story of me just passing out mid-stride to a medical professional friend of ours.
Right.
And after she picked herself up off the ground from laughing so hard and made sure she didn't pee her pants, which she kept saying she was going to do, she looked at me and she said, hey, this is kind of concerning. And while it's funny to laugh off and it could be a one-off, you should really monitor your blood pressure for a few days, morning, afternoon, and night, just to see where it's at. So I told you, I was like, hey, we have one of those like little portable cuffs.
It's a wrist cuff.
Yeah, a wrist cuff that you take your blood pressure with. And so you handed it to me and you're like, you want me to show you how to do it? I was like, Deb, I know what I'm doing.
You were very like, I've got this.
But it wasn't the first time I was doing it. I just haven't done it in a really long time. And I can tell you this about whenever I get my blood pressure taken, I feel like I work myself up. Like I get in my own head.
I think that's a thing. People do that.
Or like, am I breathing too much? Am I not breathing enough? Right. Is my heart beating too fast? Am I moving too much? Am I not moving enough? So I put the cuff on and, it does something for 30 seconds. It just gets tighter and tighter like a snake around your arm. And then it eventually lets go. And then you get the surprise of not knowing what these numbers mean. Right. So it gives you the two numbers. And I think the numbers were like 183 over 120. And I thought, like, those numbers seem high, but let me go to the internet and find out if that's right. So I type in blood pressure 183 over 120. It comes back with a website that says, what does this blood pressure mean? 183 over 120. I click it. It says, you have late stage hypertension 3. Call 911 immediately or have somebody take. That's what it said. It didn't say like, hey, this is bad. Hey, this could be an issue. Go to the hospital. That's what this said. So what did I do? Well, I just got up my phone and I texted my friends back east, none of who are within, 2 time zones.
Are any of them medical people?
One is a doctor.
Oh, okay.
And then others just believe they're doctors, which makes this fun.
Okay.
So I said, hey, fun fact, I just took my blood pressure and the internet is telling me to go to the hospital. Can you guys give me some insights onto this? And a buddy of mine who had suffered heart problems in the past was like, dude, call an ambulance. And I was like, that can't be right. Like that can't possibly be right. I'm 6'7". I'm healthy. I work out every day. I eat healthy. Yeah, I pass out when I walk sometimes, but like this can't be right. So then our medical professional friend who might have been in the middle of actually saving lives for all I know, was like, dude, that's really bad. Like maybe take it again. So
Except she did not say dude.
No. The guy on the thread.
Oh, okay. The guy on the
so
thread.
He did say dude.
Yeah.
So then I took it again. I was like, no, it's pretty consistent at 183 or whatever over 115, 120. And he's like, this might be something to be worried about. And so what did I do? I just came downstairs and I made a snack of cheese and meats and crackers, obviously. So I would say like an hour later, I get some text messages like, Kev, blood pressure, how you doing? I said, well, I feel great. Like my heart's not beating out of my chest. I haven't passed out. I haven't felt the need to call anybody. So then I tell you that same thing. And you're like, Kev, that's really high. And then I'm sure, because you're my mom, you're like, what have I done to make my child's blood pressure soar through the roof? I need to, like, he's so calm about this, but I'm sure inside I'm freaking out. I'm like, Deb, I'm just going to go to bed. It's absolutely fine.
I'm not sure that's what I thought. I had concern, but I felt like something was wrong. Not something was wrong with you. Something was wrong with the process.
Got it.
Because I believe I texted you and said, really deep breaths.
Well, this is you. So we went our separate ways to go to bed. I get that text from you, but I already have the cuff back on. Okay. I do it.
Share the good advice I gave.
I do it for a third time in the midst of you texting me and you say, hey, take some big breaths. But all these things, stay really still. All those things I'd already been doing.
Okay.
And I still had a heart rate or a blood pressure level that was going to kill me within the next hour. And then I realize that I had it on like a watch as opposed to on the inside of my wrist up against my heart, which if you've ever done that, that's the right way to do it.
Yep.
The wrong way to do it is just making it look like a massive, horrible Apple iPhone watch.
Holding it out here
Like
and
I'm just like reading it, being like, wow, I'm gonna die soon. That's not great. So at the point that I finally figured that out, credit to me for like understanding technology to the length that I can just troubleshoot it myself. My blood pressure was like, I don't know, 130/80 or something.
No, your blood pressure was actually really, really good. It was something like 120/117, which is what we would expect it to be.
Yeah, these are just like milestones in life where, you know, you have really, I could have asked you, but I felt like I knew what I was doing. And now I will know for the rest of my life how a wrist cuff for blood pressure goes on.
Yeah. And I even said to you when I was standing at the door, when I handed it to you, I said, you know how this works, right? You go, oh, yeah.
I was very dismissive. Of course I knew how it works.
And then I even went, hold your arm. I even said that
No, here's the thing. I did that. I did the half Wakanda thing where I put my wrist to my chest. The problem is if it's still on the outside, it doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
So I've just been monitoring it ever since, and it's obviously
Well, I think what everybody was concerned about, not when you had the fake high blood pressure, but when you were crumpling to the ground, was that you had low blood pressure, right? And so that's what they were concerned about.
Why would low blood pressure be bad?
I don't know the mechanics or the medical reason, but I do know that people with low blood pressure can be fainters.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
but low blood pressure isn't like.
But I think it's like they stand up fast, or they bend down to pick something up and come back up. It's usually, I think it's associated with something like that.
But that's not like indicative of like a clogged artery, is it?
Oh no.
Oh, got it.
No.
So then the other thing,
I want to say, any medical advice we give here, we are not responsible for. We are not trained.
Clearly, I don't know how to use a wrist cuff. Don't ever listen to anything we say. If you are, go get professional help for listening to us.
Entertainment only.
One of the things I was reading was like the 10 ways that you can lower your blood pressure. And I was like, well, this has to be really easy if my blood pressure is skyrocketing, right? And I think I did all 10 of them. So then I just thought to myself, well, you've lived a good life, bud. Like there's nothing else for you to do to try to be healthy because your blood pressure is just going to kill you.
Well, I genuinely was concerned, but I didn't feel like we'd turned over all the cups yet, to investigate your apparently ridiculously acute high blood pressure numbers, right? But if I go to the doctor, because they always take your blood pressure, right?
I don't know. I don't go to the doctor.
I know you don't go. So every time you go to the doctor, they take your blood pressure. Every single time. And they, somebody takes it manually usually. Every once in a while.
With a little puffer
With a little puffer ball, and then they count and do all that. And so I'm a little distrusting of that sometimes, meaning like, how good are they?
Sure.
But I also think like the wrist cuffs have room for error as well because, they've just been made for all of us stupid people,
At the point that the machine looks like something they would have used in World War I on the fields, it's hard to trust it in 2020.
Hard to trust it. So I do this thing, and I think my doctor actually told me this once. They took my blood pressure once, and it wasn't like sky high, but it was a little high. And she said, I'm going to come back in 5 minutes. And she said, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, close your eyes, do it like 3 or 4 times, super slow. And it dropped my blood pressure right down.
Oh, that's nice.
So now I just kind of do it when I go in and they first have you in there. I just kind of take these big, deep breaths, and my blood pressure's been perfect.
Isn't that like gaming the system, though?
It kind of is. It's like getting an A on your report card, though.
But it's not. It's like cheating to get an A on your report card because what you would have got was a B+, and then you managed to just take a sneak peek over at Susie for the answers you didn't know, and then that got you up to an A. Because if you were just normally breathing, you might be where you should be, but then you were really mindful and breathe in a way that you would not normally breathe. And you're like, oh, your body's like, oh, this is great. Let's take a temporary snapshot of it.
Or you could say that my doctor gave me a piece of valuable information, which I absorbed and put to use like a good patient.
Well, yeah, I'm the last person to ask for any of this stuff because I don't even know how that stuff works.
We're just glad that you don't have high blood pressure.
Me too. Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev pod. As always, my partner in crime, also known as my mom, is right there. That's Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I am the product of all the aforementioned delinquent tendencies of hers. My name is Kevin. This is our podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying our little community here in Reno suffered a freak wildfire in the middle of last week. It burned down a handful of homes and it caused damage to a dozen others. The wind on Wednesday was whipping to the point where it's like 40 degrees down in the valley, and in upper elevations where this was considered an higher elevation was up to like 50, 55 miles per hour. And we don't know the cause of the fire. I'm assuming it was a blown down power line, but it hit 9 years to the date that a previous fire hit in the exact same area, which burned down homes. And this is one of the things that I guess you and I, because we live on the West Coast, do not worry about forest fires. We just don't. It's something that we're used to. But we are always reminded that fires in this particular area can knock on your door because there are so many gullies and gulches and unconstructed pieces of land that still have brush on it and still have sagebrush and with that cheatgrass that can just go up in a nanosecond. And this thing, I would say in a matter of an hour, burned a couple houses, burned 1,500 acres. We could smell that smoke, and wildfire smoke is different than commercial fire smoke. Right. And it was that thick black smoke. And then we saw ash falling from the sky as we walked into our doctor's appointment. It was out of nowhere. And it was very sad, especially this on the cusp of holiday season.
One of the things about the fire is I always have somewhat a sense of safety. We live in a regular neighborhood, we don't have brush right around us.
No, our neighborhood is a typical suburban neighborhood.
And our neighborhood is a couple hundred years old. It's well established. I
don't know that our neighborhood's a couple hundred years old. Maybe about 60 years old.
No. Well,
our country is a couple hundred years old.
Okay, I'm going to go 100 years.
Okay.
I'm going to go 100 years. So, but anyways, the area is still in town that burned. I mean, it's not like out in no man's land.
No, it's within 10 minutes of drive from here.
Exactly. I mean, I think it was like 2.5 miles. I mean, the fire was technically from us, maybe 3 max. And I mean, we know people that live up there. We know someone that lost their house. It is frantic. We know tons of people that had to evacuate. And we had said earlier in the day, you and I were driving, and I said, I hate this kind of dry wind. Yeah. There was no rain. There was no snow. There was no precipitation with it. It was just windy as heck and dry as can be. And then we actually came out of lunch, I think,
and smelled that smoke,
the smoke, and we knew, and it was bad. And you could pretty much tell the area it was coming from.
For sure. So all of our thoughts and prayers go to all of those people. Yeah. And from what we understand, the community acted extremely fast. But they had to evacuate something like 500 homes in the general vicinity because the wind was so bad they couldn't get ahead of it. And then, fortunately, for the first time in what felt like forever, it started to rain.
First time in a few months. Yeah.
So that obviously helped put those fires out. But man, we drove by it, or I drove by it the other day, and that thing was within feet of taking down like a whole commercial strip mall that it just ran right up to.
Right.
Yep. Then all these other really, really large, very expensive homes. I mean, it got all the way up to the property line before it was chased away. So pretty scary stuff. Again, just makes me think back on how diligently you forced me to think about all the things I would take from this house.
About what you would take. Yep.
Just a constant reminder for that. Segue. It's Thanksgiving week. We talked about how on our Thursday podcast, eventually you're going to be okay never cooking Thanksgiving again.
Yeah, eventually.
But here's what I want to know. Mm-hmm. Of our traditional Thanksgiving, which we can go through plate by plate, I want to know where the recipes came from and then what's the Deb spin on it. Because I don't know that I've ever asked you those questions. So again, our Thanksgiving is very traditional. I think we do Thanksgiving exceptionally well. But let's start with some side dishes before we get to the turkey. And I just want to know what it's rooted in, because like if we just start, you have a very strong opinion on cranberries.
Oh, I have a very strong opinion
Right.
on cranberries. So I would eat any kind of cranberries that were served to me. I'm not picky, but then what I like, if I have a choice, is we had, actually it was our attorney years ago, had ordered pounds and pounds of organic cranberries from Maine. And he gave people a couple pounds of them as a gift for Thanksgiving. And I was like, so what do you do with these? And he said, so this woman in our office has this recipe from like, I don't know, the 1700s. And you just, cover them in sugar and you bake them. And then at the very end, you pour a little alcohol in them, but you kind of slow bake them and then stir them all up. He goes, they just come out perfect. And I remember thinking, really? But I did it, and they do come out.
And it's not a light amount of sugar that goes on to them.
No, it's gobs of white sugar.
And you also put some orange zest into it as well.
So what I do now, so that's how that recipe started. For me, usually, I haven't done it this year, but usually I buy tons of cranberries and give jars out to people, so they have it.
Yep.
But I love these cranberries. I mean, like, I don't want, like, I know there are the canned gel people and then there are the whole cranberry people, but I just think this is so much better than both. And
well, yeah, because it hasn't been sitting on a shelf since last Thanksgiving.
Right, and it's not in the shape of a can. There's that
True.
too, right? And you don't slice it. That's another thing.
True.
Yeah.
You don't have to knife and fork your cranberry sauce.
Exactly. So I do tons of sugar. I think I put a little allspice in. What I do now is we have in the kitchen right now some of the little tangerine or the tangela, whatever those little Japanese clementines. Okay, yeah. So I'll peel 2 or 3 of those and I'll just throw the segments in and then I'll grate some zest in. And so I do put them in the oven in a pan and I just let them slow cook. And they just slowly start popping and the juice comes out. I mean, the sugar just all disappears. Give them a good stir after however long. I mean, don't leave them too long. They get sticky. I kind of watch them, but I think they're in there for an hour and a half on a 250 temp.
Yeah.
And then whatever we have in the house, I don't go purchase it. It'll probably be spiced rum this year. I pour a hefty dose of spiced rum.
Yeah, you do.
Stir it all in, stick it back in the oven, and then, because the oven's still hot, and then just turn the oven off and let it sit. And it all gets absorbed into that. And I think they're the best.
I'm not a huge cranberry food fan. I like cranberries as like a sauce or a garnish, right? These things are so good. They're so fresh. They're like that sweet tart thing. And because Thanksgiving is nothing but phenomenal leftovers, that cranberry spread on a turkey sandwich, oh my God, phenomenal.
Best.
Okay, so cranberry sauce. So mashed potatoes, pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, but you I think you actually make the best mashed potatoes.
That's just because I put an ungodly amount of butter, cream, and salt into it. Like the levels of which nobody should do it, I do more than that because those potatoes absorb every element of that flavor.
Yeah, and you're really good about mashing them. You don't whip them. You mash.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have to get my workout.
Yeah, we've done everything. Whatever milk we have in the house. I mean, we are not, like it could be half and half. It could be heavy whipping cream if that's what we had.
We've used buttermilk.
We've used buttermilk is great. Buttermilk is great. So, but you do a really good job we've got a really weird old-fashioned masher, and it's just little metal square.
On a wooden handle that once had, I'm sure, some nice varnish, but is now since worn off. So it's
totally
just
raw,
exposed wood that any kitchen in the 1920s would have had.
Yep. And this smasher, I've never seen another one like it, but it goes to town on the potatoes. You don't feel like you have to whip them. I think people make a mistake where there's a place where if you put too much milk product in there, they get a little gluey. You know
Sure.
what I'm talking about?
I just do it just to thin it out.
Yeah.
But also the amount of butter will help thin it out
Well,
too.
and I think you are like a chef on TV with the salt and pepper that you do, and they're great.
I will never underseason anything. I will, if anything, if my mistake is to maybe overseason a little bit. So you get some chubby fingers at the end of the evening.
Which I was thinking if he has high blood pressure and he has to cut back on salt, it's going to kill him.
Never.
Yeah.
We do sweet potatoes.
Yep.
Now, why do you do chunky sweet potatoes and not whipped sweet potatoes? Because I know why, I think.
Oh, well, say why you think
I think it's a texture thing because we put the marshmallows on top.
Right.
And if it's the soft marshmallows on top of the soft sweet potatoes, it's just kind of too mushy.
So my mother always did chunky
Got it.
sweet potatoes, which I loved. I mean, she used to call them candied yams.
Got it.
And with the marshmallows and everything on top. And then I think, I started cooking like in my 20s or 30s, and I was like, oh, I'm going to whip these up. I'm going to make them beautiful, which I do love that. But what I don't love that is with whipped mashed potatoes too. You're exactly right.
Yep.
It's a texture thing. I only want one thing to have that whipped
Agreed.
thing going on. Yeah.
Totally agree. So then
So I'm back to making my mother's. I basically make my mother's.
Barbara was right.
Barbara was right.
Then you do the green bean casserole.
So here's the thing about the green bean casserole. You and I could take it or leave it.
Yes, the green bean casserole, as you and I have said, is nothing more than a vessel to get the French's fried onion rings into our mouth. The green bean casserole is very good and it heats up really well and it's a fantastic element. It is not a star by any means. And if those French's onion rings weren't on it, I don't know that I would care.
So that's how I feel. And I grew up like people my age did, where it was a much softer casserole because my mom used canned green beans.
Gross.
Right? But everyone's mom did. And then they just took cream of mushroom soup and mixed it and baked it and then put the French fried onions over the top.
So now we got mashed potatoes. Some people would have the whipped sweet potatoes, and then we
now
just
you got
have
the soft green beans.
Yeah.
So when I got old enough, the first thing I did was switch to fresh green beans.
Got it.
So that they had some substance. Still use the cream of mushroom soup. We use the gluten-free cream of mushroom soup now. But I'd read somewhere, and I don't know if it's like a traditional recipe, I put a little Worcestershire in there. I also cook bacon, not going to lie, lots of good thick cut bacon in tidbits. I then usually grill some onions. So we've got grilled onions in there now. We've got the cream of mushroom soup with the fresh green beans. We've got the Worcestershire. We've got the bacon. We found great gluten-free French fried onions. They're, so they're terrific. So, I think it's a really good dish now. Though, I do want to say this. If Dad listens to this, I don't think he'll listen to this before Thanksgiving. But Dad loves, I don't like these, but I'm going to do this for him this year as a little gift. Dad loves those weird pearl cocktail onions.
Sure, that are typically in like martinis.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're made for. And when we first got married, he would say, my mom puts those in the grate.
She's wrong. Your mom's wrong.
And I was like, my mom didn't put those in anything.
Well, the idea that two adults are going to look at each other and be like, well, my mom didn't do that.
Exactly.
So we're not doing that anymore.
So I think maybe the first two Thanksgivings I put those in and just, they're like in vinegar or something.
Well, yeah, they're pickled, I imagine, right?
Exactly. So it's awful. So
at least they're big enough where you can eat around them.
Well, so this is what I saw them this year. I was just going down the aisle.
I saw that they're in the kitchen. And I was like, have I seen these in a while?
Yeah. And so I'm going to soak them first. Rinse them and soak them a little bit.
Got it.
And then I'll maybe put them on one side.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to hop over the stuffing because I think the stuffing is actually the piece de resistance of our Thanksgiving.
I agree.
And we have done turkey in so many different iterations. We've basted it, we've brined it, we've fried it, we've done slow cooking. We've done everything. We're the thing that we have all agreed on. And I don't know why once we figured it out, we didn't keep doing it. But we thought the spatchcocking was the best, the literal best.
Yeah.
Short of the aesthetic because it's not this nice, big, beautiful magazine.
Napping.
Yeah.
It's napping.
Well, it's not napping. It got run over by the school bus. It is delicious. And so we are going to self-spatchcock this year. There's some YouTube videos on it. I think they're like a minute and a half long. Cut out the backbone, press it down, crack it.
Yep.
You're good to go. So I believe the stuffing that we make, and I say you make, is literally one of the greatest foods ever. And I know this to be true because it's not just me saying, oh, my mom's stuffing's great. Everybody says that. When I was in Louisiana a couple years ago, we did a Friendsgiving. And now everybody brought what they would normally bring to Thanksgiving. And I said, I'll take care of the stuffing, which is no small to do.
Because everyone's emotional about stuffing.
1,000%.
They like it. Yeah.
The stuffing I brought was the only thing that wasn't left.
Wow.
All gone.
Pretty nice.
Deb, tell us what's in that stuffing.
Okay, so again, gluten-free. We start with the basic gluten-free stuffing.
And if you're thinking, ugh, gluten-free, not going to be good, try it.
Yeah.
Try it. You won't know the difference.
We defy you to tell us that it's not good. So it's just, I throw that in a bowl. I cut up a bunch of white onions, throw that in. I dice up some celery. I throw that in. But then here's where it just goes a little left turn.
Yep.
So I use the Jimmy Dean spicy sausage.
Yep.
I cut that up. Don't use the maple flavor. Don't use the regular.
Don't use the sage flavor.
Don't use the sage flavor. No, use the hot. The hot is not really hot.
No.
It's got a little bit of kick is a bad word.
For all of our Midwestern fans, it's not hot.
It's not hot, okay? And then you just dump it in. And then I usually buy a box of rice. It's called Near East.
Yep.
And it's long grain, and it's kind of a peel off with long grain rice in it as well. I just cook it according to the instructions. It's wet. I throw it in, okay? And then I toast maybe, a half a cup of pine nuts separately.
Yep.
As soon as they're a little bit golden, I throw them in. I mix it all together, and then stuffing should be wet to start out with. So I add a combination of chicken broth and melted butter to get it to the right wet consistency, if you will. And then I usually add some sage or a little poultry seasoning or,
But you don't under-season it because that stuff, it literally is all just absorbing.
It's all absorbing
flavor.
Everything. So it's fairly wet when it goes in the dish. And I'm only heating it up because everything's already cooked.
Right.
Except for the onions and the celery. But I like them to have a little crunch for texture.
Yep.
I don't want them to be wet.
Right.
And so, cover it with foil for maybe 15 minutes, uncovered for 15, and pull it out. It is amazing. And I want to say this. Our friend Alyssa, was in Chicago last year going to a Friendsgiving, and Alyssa is a vegetarian. And she said, do you have a stuffing recipe? And I said, I do, but it's not vegetarian. Well, she just didn't do the sausage. She did everything else. And she said the exact same story you did. People ate it like crazy.
Yep.
She had nothing to bring home.
It's that sage. The sage sets it off. It's phenomenal.
Do you think like the sausage is the thing?
For me, the sausage just adds an element that is different than everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else, if you look at it, doesn't pack a lot of flavor. The turkey is the only thing that might have some real flavor. Mashed potatoes, in theory, don't have flavor. You're eating butter and salt and
yours
cream.
After the salt.
Sure.
Yeah.
The sweet potatoes, they have a little bit of flavor, but you're tasting the sugar of the marshmallows. The green bean casserole does have flavor, but it's mostly, the soupy elements of it because you bake it down. That sausage is the most flavorful element on the dish, and it's the best one. Not because it's the most flavorful, but because of the flavor that it contains.
It ties it all together.
Yep.
So I had read, this is years and years ago, maybe even before you were born, I was reading some article about stuffings from around the country.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were talking about your funny gravy last Thursday that you had, I was...
Calling it funny is an understatement, but yes, it was funny gravy.
With the hard-boiled eggs. Anyways, I literally, it did like, Pacific Northwest, New England, Midwest. All the different stuffings that people do. And, like New England oysters could be in a stuffing, right? All sorts of different things. So I did like a little bit of the meat element, but I wasn't going to, I love oysters, but not in stuffing.
Never.
That wasn't never going to be my thing.
That's a regional thing for sure.
And then I think it was one of the southern dishes. No, it maybe was like the Minnesota area where they just put wild rice in the stuffing, right? So I just kind of collected what I liked of the ideas, was never going to do the oysters, but I remember shortly after that being at the store and seeing the Jimmy Dean sausage and going, that's what I would do. And
It's
that's
great.
what I've done ever since. Yeah.
We will absolutely post pictures of our Thanksgiving meal as you are all hopefully drooling listening to this, because I don't know that I was excited about Thanksgiving until right now.
Yeah, I'm getting excited too.
Managing the holidays is something that's very difficult. we have gone very long on our segments. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of just shore this one up a little bit. Don't have to be really long with it, but it can be complicated normally without a pandemic. But how does one manage the holidays in the midst of a pandemic?
So obviously, we're not just in the middle of a pandemic. We watch the news like everybody else does, and the COVID numbers are going up and up and up. And like I have said before, we now know lots of people who have contracted COVID and have all recovered, thank God. But I do want to say an employer has responsibility, to keep their employees safe, as much as possible. In the smallest numbers that I've heard, and it depends on the state you're in, so check your state, would be like not a gathering of over 10, right? I know they're saying now, like, don't have Thanksgiving with anybody that doesn't live outside your house. I mean, if you can avoid it. So, which of course you can't avoid it. So please don't do it. That's what they're saying. I mean, they're really trying to get that to tamp down.
Right.
I think this has been such a difficult year. Now, if a business is really struggling financially, then what they need to do is look at their employees and they need to find something that they can do that's meaningful. And I don't necessarily know what that is, but meaningful without maybe having a party.
Right.
And if you did have a party budget, if you had that budgeted, then take that and do something different with it that you can do that's meaningful for the individuals. I think people are tired. I think people are weary. I know even for myself, we are blessed, we are safe, have a roof over our head.
I mean, we're not waiting in those 5-hour food lines, which is just horrible to see.
It breaks my heart when I see them. So we have so many blessings, but I still feel the weight of all of this nonsense in the world, And so I really just think I would say to employers, be very thoughtful. If time off is a gift you can give, I just think that really helps people kind of rest and recuperate to come back. I'm saying time off paid. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Obviously. Yeah. And if your company has done really well, and I work with lots of companies who have done great in spite of everything, then this is probably the time to share and to really be generous and to be authentic with it and, to really make it happen. But I don't think it necessarily has to be a party this year. I think it can just be, I think it can be ordering a luncheon for your staff one day, but then just really giving them gifts that you think they'll value and need depending on your company budget. But
you think they should also address that by saying, hey, this year's different. We know it's different. We're not going to be doing a party. We'll do a small gathering, but no family members get to come. It's going to be during office hours. Obviously, we love you and we appreciate you, and here's whatever version of our gift that we would have normally given to you. But I think we can all be in agreement that we're just going to skip over this year.
Right. And I just think it needs to be a little bit more thoughtful. Like I know a company that has a tons of employees, and they do this enormous luncheon. I mean, they get the whole, like at 11, they go and they get the rest of the day off. And there's alcohol and fun and lots of good things, right? And then they give them all like a big, beautiful, I'm just going to say, fruit basket, like their cheese, crackers, fruit, that kind of thing. Yeah, typical. And they give them all one of those. Well, those fruit baskets could possibly cost, I'm going to say $75 each, I don't know that every family needs those. I think it might better like round it up to $100 grocery store gift card, because guess what? Everybody needs groceries.
For sure.
And
that's a practical gift. That practicality is key this year.
Exactly. And I think that this year people need to do it just a little bit differently. And, if you have a small staff and you really know something they'd like, then be personal with your gift giving. If there's something like an event that you want to put together afterwards, make that part of the gift. Tell them like, okay, when the vaccine's here, we're all going to go do this on that day.
Yeah.
But I think the party thing, I think a lot of people, you're going to take flack for it if people know about it, if it's a bigger size party.
True.
Nobody needs that on their brand, and I don't think anybody needs it. I think people need to be able to take a breath and rest and catch a minute.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I absolutely agree with you. I think now is not the time to just run the risk of bringing in COVID into your office because you did something that you clarly have a past not to do this year. But second, you don't want to wind up on the news, which, listen, people are really happy to rat other people out about, 50% occupancy or large gatherings. And so if you can avoid that by just having a nice, Christmassy themed lunch at your place of business, that's going to satisfy everybody, especially if you give them that practical gift, whether it's an Amazon gift card or a gift card to your local grocery store or just $100 in a thank you card. People are going to appreciate that now more so than ever.
Because if your tradition, for instance, is to hold a big party off premises, and big company or small company, it doesn't matter, and you invite their spouses or plus ones, and it's an evening of food and drink and gifts anyways. You have a budget there that is really nice, that can make a difference for somebody during the holidays. I know that one company that I work with, they looked at their end of the year figures, and they said, we've just had a ridiculously successful year. So I think it was last week, they cut everybody $1,000 bonus and gave it to them prior to the holidays.
Wow.
Which I thought was a great thing to do. And because they know their staff, and they felt like some of them probably needed that money, for the holidays. And so it was a great thing to do.
Of course.
Yeah. Whether you need it or not, that's terrific that you don't have to wait until, the day before Christmas when you're, going home for Christmas to actually get the gift.
So I have a practical question as it relates to managing time off requests during the holidays, because a lot of people do the tenure thing.
Yeah, I don't do that for
a
the
lot
holidays.
of other people do the first come, first served thing. I don't believe either of those are fair. I think you have a fairly diplomatic approach to that. What is it?
So I'm talking about only the holidays, right? Any other time, pick what you want. Pick tenure, pick first come, first served, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But the holidays, especially if people are traveling, and if I live in Nevada and my family's in Missouri or something, then I'm going for a week at least, right? So I think holidays just have to be alternated amongst everybody,
Yep.
right? And so the girl that feels like she gets to go to Missouri every year probably doesn't get to go to Missouri every year, I think Thanksgiving is one holiday. I think Christmas is another. I think the week before Christmas is a specific holiday, and I think a week after Christmas is another holiday that, you get to scoop New Year's in.
Totally.
So I think you have 3 options there of 3 different weeks that people can take, with the effort to be with family. And you start somewhere, and wherever you started this year, it rotates after that. And if it turns out that really people don't care, it's no big deal, they don't, care where they are, then, sometimes some people get to go. A couple of years in a row.
Sure.
But it has to be because everybody else doesn't care. That's the one thing. I just think the holidays are the one thing that it just has to, whether you're new, been there a long time, whether you're senior, whether you're not, that has to be kind of fair for everybody.
Yeah. And it doesn't reward or it doesn't hinder somebody for the longest that they've been there, right? Because if you love that job, you know that your time's going to come back up where you're going to be able to get those days off again. And then you're comfortable probably letting them go in the year's future.
And most employers that I know, unless I'm going to say it's a retail driven thing, where right up until Christmas Day is super important.
Yeah.
But even this year is different than that, because I even do think in brick and mortars, they're probably mailing out a lot and shipping a lot. I do think a lot of businesses are willing to go lean around the holidays so that people can get the time off that they want. But I just think you have to keep track, and it has to be a rotation thing. It's too important to so many people.
It might also be the year that people want to work during the holidays too.
It could be. Yeah, for sure.
Good problem to have if you're owning a business of some kind. Yeah. I have a fun question for you. Are you ready for it?
The last time you asked a question like this, I had no idea what you were even talking about.
That's okay, because I'm going to help you a little bit with this one, okay?
All right.
You know who Vin Diesel is, correct?
I do.
I meant to ask you this question about a month ago when I first heard about this, and then I just completely forgot. But there's no better time than now, so I'm really happy to sink my teeth into this. So Vin Diesel, Big Vin Daddy.
Fast cars.
Daddy Diesel, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You may know him from Saving Private Ryan or the great movie Boiler Room. Maybe you saw him in Triple X or The Chronicles of Riddick. Those are your favorite movies, right, Deb?
Right.
If none of these movies sound familiar to you, maybe you've seen him in one of the 39 installments of Fast and the Furious. Hey, listen, I know we have some younger people who listen to us.
He's the bald guy.
He's the bald guy.
Yeah.
Maybe you've seen his viral video when he was breakdancing as a 16-year-old.
Ah.
Or maybe you saw his other viral video when he was blackout wasted wearing sunglasses hitting on a Brazilian newscaster.
Ah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't know him from the internet or you don't know him from movies. You just know his voice as Groot, the humanoid tree in
right.
Guardians of the
He's
Galaxy.
Groot. Yeah.
What is his famous line, Deb?
I don't know.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
He gets paid hundreds of millions of dollars to say one
I am
line
Groot.
over and over. Side tangent. People that do voice acting. So like Jack Black in Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Jack Black is not in that movie. His voice is in that movie. Well, Jack Black can't speak Chinese fluently. He can't speak German fluently. He can't speak French fluently, right? So they have to go find voice actors who sound like Jack Black in those countries. Yeah. Jack Black still gets royalties on those.
Oh, good for Jack Black.
He doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah, I like that deal. So why don't we just eat on camera and do voiceovers? Okay?
Sold.
Right?
So here's my question to you, Deb.
Okay.
Did you know that Vin Diesel, this clearly master of all trades, right? Jack of all trades.
Yep.
Did you know that he has a song out?
Album out?
Oh my God, you know it.
I know.
Have you listened to it?
I haven't listened to it, but I saw it advertised.
You've seen it advertised? So here's the thing. I found out about this about a month ago, and I thought, oh my God.
Oh, do you know how good I feel right now that I knew that?
2020 just got worse.
I almost cut you off at the beginning and said, he has an album out.
Thank you for understanding how this stuff works. Let me build to it. So he doesn't have an album. He just has a song. Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to look it up right now because I have this for us. It's by the artist Vin Diesel, and it's called Feel Like I Do. Now, it is clearly like a romantic song, but it's just in the entrapment modern day music of EDM. Okay. So it's very heavily auto-tuned. There's a big synth sound. There's a couple, drops to it. I just want to read these lyrics to you. Not because they're great, but because I just like to poke holes in all of this stuff. Now, I've listened to it. I don't know that it's a good song. I just know that it's novel because...
How is Vince's voice?
It's not Vince, it's Vin.
Oh, Vin. How's Vin's voice?
It's heavily auto-tuned.
Oh, okay.
It's
all right.
heavily auto-tuned.
All right.
Again, I don't know if this is a good song, but it's a song I've listened to because Vin Diesel sings it, okay? So it starts like this. Who goes out on a Tuesday night in this town? Bar's too quiet, and the cover band is too loud. So he's out on the Tuesday night. He's questioning who goes out on a Tuesday night, but he's out.
Or is he saying, I don't go out?
Well, no, he's saying the bar's too quiet and the cover band is too loud.
Oh, okay.
So he's already out on this Tuesday night. And if Chris Brown has taught us anything, the club is going up on a Tuesday. I know you're a big fan of that song, Deb. Step outside, I'm about to leave when you walk right on by and I'll just freeze. So clearly a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
All of the times you tried to find someone that hit me like you. And I'm not the type who likes to rush in, but I want to. Now here's the chorus. I don't know you, but it feels like I do. And I was frozen when he walked in the room. That's a point of contention for me because he first saw her outside.
Right.
He wasn't in the room. You know why he wasn't? It was too quiet and the cover band was too loud. He was leaving. So that's my first issue.
You've assumed he's leaving.
Yeah, but he said walk into the room.
Okay.
Maybe when you got out the Uber, but that doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
Because every single word, it just makes my stomach turn, which...
No.
When you're like infatuated with somebody and somebody's speaking and your stomach turns, like that means you're going to go puke or you got some bubble guts.
Not good verbiage.
Really bad verbiage. Because I don't know you, but it feels like I do. Let's continue. Close and tight, and we spent all night talking. You and I, just one more thing I want to. Be that guy. Tell you how I feel it every single time and just freeze.
And just what?
Just freeze.
Okay.
So this is where I just can't track with the
Yeah.
fundamentals of this song.
The lyrics of the song are bad.
He was leaving.
Yes.
He was outside.
Yes.
She's clearly coming inside.
Yes.
She's hitting the town on a Tuesday. If she's hitting the town on a Tuesday by herself, she's a terrible degenerate alcoholic.
Kevin.
I mean, nobody goes out in this town on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let alone
Apparently in his
girls
town either.
who
Yeah.
can, who stop Vin Diesel in their tracks. So then he proceeds to leave his friends, I'm assuming, unless he himself, which maybe he is a degenerative alcoholic based on that Brazilian interview, goes back inside to stalk this woman who I'm assuming is with her friends, then proceeds to have a close, intimate conversation with her while the cover band's playing
Too loud.
and the bar's too quiet.
Yeah.
So I don't see how those go
Yeah.
well with one another. And then did he just separate her from her friends?
Well, he didn't mention the friends. Maybe she really did. I pictured her walking in alone. Kate.
I hate that.
Yeah, that she
That's
walked
not
in
real.
alone?
What girl in 2020 is going anywhere by herself on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't see that. Tequila Tuesday?
Who goes to tequila? If it's Tequila Tuesday and a girl walks in there, nobody's stopping to look at her. She's got I'm sure the Tequila Tuesdays are $2 shots. She's probably got a 20 in her hand. She's just looking to get bombed.
Okay, we can go with that.
So that's my issue with this song. It's a fun song to listen to, but if you really listen to the lyrics, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Unless, of course, you're Vin Diesel.
I did text a friend and I said, I'm more mad about the fact that Vin Diesel has a song that is kind of catchy, that I don't get to go out on a Tuesday or a Friday or Saturday
Right.
and have DJs unironically play this song for people to dance to. I feel cheated. That's the most I've felt cheated this entire year.
Well, maybe you can play it up in your room and dance around.
I have.
Okay.
Okay.
So how was it that I knew that? Were you happy that I knew that?
Do you know, I Googled this, and do you know where he made his announcement about the song?
Where?
The Kelly Clarkson show.
Oh, wow. That's random. Totally
She
random.
started as like, hey, our friend Vin Diesel has an announcement. I was like, your friend Vin Diesel?
No, that doesn't. No, that
What?
doesn't roll off the tongue,
No.
does it? No. Yeah, that's weird. No, I saw
How
it
did you
somewhere.
know it?
I think I saw it on Instagram. Something was posted.
Got it.
But there's ads on Instagram, so it could have been that, right?
I mean, I would happily play it on this, but I don't want to get sued or pay royalties or anything like that.
I was just so excited that I knew.
That's great.
Yeah.
See, you're 1 for 2.
Okay.
You didn't remember that. You didn't remember Andy Milonakis, nor did you know that he was like 45 or whatever.
Right.
But you did know Vin Diesel is now a musician.
It's now a singer.
Love that for old Vin. This podcast went off the rails. I don't know why. I just read Vin Diesel lyrics.
I was going to stop you after the first
No,
chorus.
I
but
needed to commit
yeah.
to the bit. And now I'm just sitting here being like, what is
What
wrong
was I
with you?
thinking?
Where is your blood pressure at right
You
now?
have the edit option. You can edit some of yourself if you listen back to it.
Vin stays. Okay. What is happening? As we wind this down, even though we have the dinners of all dinners coming up on Thursday,
Yep.
Deb, what is for dinner tonight?
I think we're just going to make, going to make some beautiful little individual charcuterie boards.
Oh,
Because I think we've got lots of good stuff.
what's really funny is you said the other night, because we do this big, for Thanksgiving, we do this big strata, which is just like a breakfast casserole,
Yeah.
right? So it's got eggs and cheese and sausage and onions and bread and more cheese. It's delicious. You put a little hot sauce with it, maybe a little bit of ketchup. Oh my God, it's so good. And then we do those runner muffins that are gluten-free to go along with it. It's fantastic. And then, of course, we do Thanksgiving. And you're like, Kevin, do we need something in between all of that? And I was
Little
like,
appetizers.
yeah, we're going to be
Yeah.
full-blown diabetic coma if we have that. So this is a nice workaround because
so
we'll
that-
do that this evening
Yeah.
because we do have a bunch of meats and cheeses right now.
Meats and cheeses, and I think we have one jar left of the pickled asparagus.
Yum.
And so we've got some olives. So we'll just make a little charcuterie board. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know that Dad will be okay with that.
Dad isn't going to openly whine, but he may tomorrow go for a burger somewhere.
Maybe if we throw some tortilla chips on his board.
Then he'll be happy.
He'll be totally fine
he'll
with
be
that.
Happy.
All right. Hey, I can't think of a better week to give thanks than this week. So, Deborah, what are you thankful for heading into Thanksgiving?
Well, I am thankful for a lot. And I do want to say that if everybody is feeling a little bit like me, a little bit weary and a little bit tired and feeling like not another thing, I do think gratitude helps that for sure. So
Totally.
practice gratitude. I am genuinely thankful for the people that have surrounded us while we've been going through COVID and everything. And we've had great friends and emotional support, and people really care about us, mostly from afar. But we had some friends that came into town from North Carolina, which was so exciting to see new faces.
Yep.
I am very grateful, Kevin. I want to say this. You kind of drugged me kicking, screaming into this little podcast adventure.
True.
And now I look forward to it. It is one of the highlights of my week. I can't thank you enough.
Of
You
course.
work so hard on this. If people knew how much you do and how much I don't, it's amazing.
Who can come up with segments like, did you know?
And I'm super excited for the nice feedback we get. We haven't gotten any horrendous feedback yet. So when that comes, we'll share it with everybody.
Absolutely.
But it's just like little things, like your friend John that you went to college with, who I haven't spoken to in 1,000 years, called me today because they're hosting Thanksgiving for the first time.
Big family.
And he said, hey, walk me through the setup, walk me through this. And it was just such a great conversation. I don't know if I made any difference for him at all. I hope I did, but it really, the whole podcast has been an amazing thing. So I'm super grateful to you, Kev.
Thank you. We would for sure be insane without this podcast.
Yeah,
it is a moment of therapy for us. I have two thankfuls. The first one is I'm thankful that even though your surgery didn't happen, you are at peace with that you and the doctor had a fantastic conversation, and he was adamant that the surgery would not happen. So it gave you that definitive response that you wanted. And selfishly, I don't have to cook Thanksgiving dinner by myself.
True.
Super duper happy about that. But the other thing that I'm thankful for, and this happened just last night, you needed to run to the post office very late. And you said, oh my gosh, Kevin, the latest This American Life episode is so good. If you haven't listened to This American Life, it is the granddaddy of podcasts. It's phenomenal. It does what we try to do every week. And you said, they had this great episode this week, and it was things that you never need to do again. And that's something that we should do. And I paused and I looked at you and I said, we did do that. We did that on Thursday.
No, theirs was things you would do different.
Even better, because we did that 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And the idea that we together came up with a concept that something like This American Life did lets me know that we're at least where we should be. I don't know if we're on the right path, but we're doing what we should be doing if we're keeping company with a show like that.
I think if we're keeping good company with Ira Glass, we're in great shape.
Is his name Ira Glass?
Yeah, it is Ira Glass.
Okay. I didn't.
Dad took me to see him here at the Pioneer Theater.
Oh yeah,
a
that's
few
right.
years back. Yeah, he was awesome.
So I mean that just, it was such a off the wall compliment that you clearly didn't even intend, but I was like, oh my gosh, we are doing things that these, monoliths of podcasting are doing, and we're doing it without any outside influence from them.
But what does it say about my memory?
Not great.
Okay. All right.
Not great. That's going to do it for us this Monday episode. Please like, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow us on all of our social channels, and you can watch this episode on our YouTube channel at Deb and Kev Pod. Mom, I love you so much.
I love you, baby.
Guys, we will see you all on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.